What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? Yeah. Peace out to here. Check it out, man. Feds want... Oh, shoot. Wait a minute. Hold up, y'all. Something else done came on. Uncle Mike tried to do... That's how you got to do things. I try to do way too many things at one time. That's just how I do things. Man, you try to do too many things at one time. Everybody say that to me. So I'm saying, F everybody. That's how I work. That's how I function. That's how I want to do things. I want to work in the backyard. I want to build the stage. I want to build the studio. I'm trying to set up the new computer. I want to do a lot of things at one time. Simultaneously. Well, you need to do one thing at a time. How about this? You do one thing at a time. Show me how far you got in life. Yeah, right now, this is what works for Uncle Mike. Check this out, man. Feds want Diddy's victims named secretly, permanently. And I think they should do it. Especially when you got 𝗟𝗡𝗞𝗦 missing. Especially when you got Uncle Ron, the security guard missing. There's so many people missing, allegedly, that we don't even know about. You got 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦, car done blew up, allegedly. We don't know how the car blow up. Let's say Puffy didn't do it. How the car blow up? Yeah. So much stuff, man. Of course they should name permanently. Because how long can this weak government protect these people? I think that they should look, the judge trust these people. Why you need to see the people? Judge, you talk to the person. Make sure, are you sure this is what we got all the evidence? Why do they need to see the person? They on the tapes, they on the videos, all this type of stuff. So some of them need to stay. I know one thing, I would tell, if I was a judge, if this was my world, nah, he don't have to stay under this person right here. Trust me, if they missing, you're gonna be missing. Do you understand me? If they missing, you're gonna be missing, period. You better be hoping somebody else don't off them, because you're gonna be offed. Do you get my drift? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? This is what the system need to do. Because this man, allegedly, has been taking people off this earth. And it's a lot of other them that's in that Illuminati, whatever you want to call that. They have been taking people off the earth. I can't stand for that. They've been drugging people. They've been making people do things against their will. That's called slavery. And Uncle Mike don't like that at all. Think I'm playing? Please come over here. I will sit here and look here. I'm getting too far off the subject. Let's give him thumbs up. This is the surprise witness. I'm glad it's on her channel. Because guess what? Surprise! They stand at least one or two of them. The ones that scared the most.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing this fine Saturday?
Hit that subscribe button,
Saturday,
hit that bell.
I am dressed casually, but
Check
even
it
more
out,
importantly than the style of dress, I do have an announcement to make. New merch launching very soon.
Hey. That's cool.
Also have tank tops and shopping totes, so be on the lookout for that. If you are already on the merch email list, you will be notified of this merch very soon. Okay, so enough of that. Today I want to talk to y'all about 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦 and specifically about his criminal trial. Now, the last video I made on 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦, we were talking about the fact that he had filed some motions in limine. Motion in limine is where you are asking, a party to a litigation is asking for the judge to determine the admissibility of a certain piece of evidence, or to exclude evidence, or to make a ruling on a certain argument that one of the parties wants to be excluded from the trial, stuff like that. So the last time we talked about this, Diddy had actually submitted 2 motions in limine. One of the motions in limine was he wanted to preclude, he wanted to keep out of trial the testimony of one of the experts named Dr. Dawn Hughes. Now, a lot of y'all were already familiar with Dr. Dawn Hughes because she had made quite the name for herself already in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. She was purportedly Amber Heard's actual psychologist. In this case, in the Diddy case, they are not trying to present her testimony as if she is Diddy's psychologist. Instead, they are trying to present the testimony as if she is just a general expert. Now, a lot of y'all were saying, no, if they want to win this case at all, they need to keep that lady out. Actually, I agree with Diddy for once. Some of y'all were saying it. So Diddy's lawyers did submit that motion in limine, but he also submitted another motion in limine having to do with summary charts. Like, he wanted the judge on the case to prevent the other side, the feds, from presenting evidence as a summary chart where they go together and then they put together their own evidence within this like PowerPoint or within a chart. Apparently, like last year or the year before, that rule was changed in the federal courts. So those were the 2 things that Diddy did file. Now, that leaves outstanding the question of a pharmacological expert, which was something that also was contemplated. I don't know if that's something that's going to be the subject of a motion in limine. Like, obviously, not every single thing at trial that they plan to present is going to be subject to the motion in limine. This is all just pre-trial stuff. Well, in addition to those 2 motions in limine that Diddy himself filed, now we have a motion in limine being filed by none other than the feds themselves. And actually, I think, again, I'm kind of gonna agree with Diddy, and I'm not gonna be able to agree with the feds. And I'll show you why I'm saying that and what I mean. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just pull up the docket, you know, the ever so trusty, ever so familiar docket. Okay, and what we are on, the most recent filing was just yesterday. This is the one we're going to be talking about today. Docket number 211-211, and it was filed, like I said, again, yesterday on April 4th. Now, there has been a lot of much ado about this superseding indictment. And yes, it is newsworthy. It's a superseding indictment, but really none of them are relying on a new statute. None of them are relying on, oh, it's another crime he committed. It was just like another count of the racketeering, ST-ing, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, there were some like fake news headlines going around, fake news YouTube video titles going around that there had been some mention and some disclosure of the so-called unindicted co-conspirators. That is not true. There has been absolutely no mention of the names of unindicted co-conspirators. There has been no disclosure of the names of the witnesses either. So the most recent document filed, again, just yesterday, April 4th, docket number 211, I am going to pull that up. I want y'all to look at it. Again, this is the feds. They have filed a motion in limine, and what they want is to keep the purported so-called alleged victims' names private, except for victim number 1. So I want to get into exactly what they're asking and exactly what that would mean if it's granted, and also my opinion, which may be unpopular opinion, but I like to approach these cases and approach my analysis of these cases as if I were the defendant. And if I am the defendant, what would I think would be fair, and what do I think in my understanding of the law is actually constitutional and fair? Okay, so this isn't the channel you need to come to if you want to just hear parroted over and over predetermined and biased coverage. That's just really not what I'm going to be doing with this Diddy case, if you haven't discovered that already. Okay, so let me pull up docket 211. Okay, so what does the government / the feds, what do they want? To quote, protect the identities of certain victims / witnesses. So here's the argument. They lay it out in the table of contents, and they give a background, relevant victim background. Now, one thing you should know is that this document is highly, heavily redacted. The document has a lot of redactions, a lot of those big black bars. I mean, pages of those black bars. So they want to keep the identities of victim 2, victim 3, and victim 4 a secret from the public. They lay out their argument. The discussion here is the court should permit them to testify under pseudonyms to avoid unnecessary harassment, humiliation, social stigma, and professional consequences. The use of pseudonyms is narrowly tailored to the particular privacy interests of victim 2, 3, and 4. So in and of itself, it sounds okay. It doesn't sound bad. But then when you actually start to look at what the government is actually requesting, it starts to me to feel a little bit broad. It feels a little broad, and it feels like an infringement upon our rights as the public. And I'll show you what I mean. The government respectfully submits this memo in support of its motion to keep the victim 2 through 4 identities a secret. Now, they do talk about victim 1, and we pretty much, I believe, is Cassie. I mean, this is the person that they allege was in a relationship with Diddy for a long time and also was seen in footage at the CNN incident. So, I mean, that's Cassie. So Cassie, apparently, allegedly, she's fine with doing it under her own name. So we're not talking about her. It's victims 2, 3, and 4. They have asked that their identities not be revealed to the public. They want to go to trial using only pseudonyms. They also want to get the court to preclude or, to stop Diddy's lawyers from, quote, eliciting personally identifying details of those witnesses. The government, the feds, want the court to seal all of the exhibits that contain the names of the victims with redacted versions to be made available to the public. This case has already received an exceptional amount of media coverage, which will presumably only increase as the trial proceeds. Permitting these measures will prevent the unnecessary public disclosure of the victims' identities and the harassment from the media and others, undue embarrassment and other adverse consequences that would almost certainly follow if these women were forced to reveal their true names publicly at trial. Now, first and foremost, just off the bat, I think it is very, very dangerous and frankly, almost disrespectful for the government, the feds, to be alleging that mere publicity of this trial is harassment. That is anti-democratic, anti-First Amendment, and also is hypocritical because they can go and do all of these interviews about Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. They can make all these allegations about Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. But then whenever it's time for us to know who is making allegations about him, it's a hush-hush secret. And if anybody finds out, it's harassment from the media. No, we have to put our foot down. I don't care how much you hate Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. This is dangerous for the government to be phrasing and framing simple publicity, a First Amendment right that we all have, as if it is harassment. No, it is not. And if it is, then y'all been harassing Diddy too. Y'all been harassing him by talking about it in the media. But here's the thing too, y'all. I understand if you think Diddy deserves this. In some ways, I think he does deserve this. He deserves to face trial. He deserves his day in court. But if we're going to have court, in this society, in this civilization, then we ought to let the court do what the court is supposed to do. The court is supposed to hear all sides and weigh the evidence. The court is supposed to hear all sides and weigh the evidence. And the public, the people, we have a right to know not only what is going on in court, but also who is using our court system. The government, the feds work for us. They work for us. If you look at the case name, it's the United States versus Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs, not Maureen Comey versus Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. So we, the public, the people, we have a right. This is not up for debate. This is not up for debate. This is a fact. We have a right to know how our systems are being used and who is using them. We have a right to see how the prosecutors who work for us, the feds who work for us, are prosecuting these cases. I've already seen a few ways that they are dropping the ball. I don't think that they're doing a good job prosecuting this case. And for that reason, I think it is possible that Diddy is going to not face full justice for what he is accused of. That is my opinion. Hope I'm wrong. But the government, the feds, they don't just want to keep the victims' names private for temporary. To get through the trial, so they don't have this anxiety, so they don't have the stress and all of. No, they want it to be a secret. All 3 victims, other than Cassie, who are going to testify, they want to be a complete secret from the public forever, such that if the government gets their way, we, the people, will never, ever know. who these alleged victims are. I'm not okay with that. Now, of course, there's an argument to be made, and the government makes a 24-page argument that these women, and it says these women, so it's women, would face undue humiliation, undue harassment, undue social stigma, etc., if their names were to be revealed. And that might be true, but we're looking at taking somebody's rights away, like, for the rest of their life. And I don't like this trend that I have seen. This is my opinion. I don't like the trend I have seen where if somebody just calls themselves a victim, all of a sudden they get all these special privileges whenever we have not seen the evidence. What evidence we have seen with our eyes is the stuff that's public, the stuff of Cassie running down the hall. He is not being tried for that. The statute of limitations apparently has expired for that. Nobody can do anything about that. So yes, we have seen him do that. There is evidence of him doing that. There's evidence that he did it even more so because he apologized for it. But what about victim 2, 3, and 4? We don't even know who these people are. And the government, the feds, don't ever want us to know who these people are. Not only that, they don't even want the sketch artists in the courtroom to draw the victims. They don't even want them to be drawn, the sketch artists. On top of that, they're saying that Diddy's lawyers should not even be look at all the redactions. Diddy's lawyers should not even be able to make a reference to these witnesses in the closing statements. Again, I don't think that's constitutional. Do y'all want Diddy's verdict to be overturned if he gets found guilty on something? Because that is the path that 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦 is leading this prosecution team down, in my opinion. I mean, I have no way to know. It's in the future. But I don't think this is responsible. I don't think it's respectable. And I don't think it's constitutional. I do understand it is scary to testify against people in court. But I also understand that I have been accused by liars of things I did not do in court, in declarations under penalty of perjury. Can you even imagine if those people didn't have to put their names down? Just any random stranger can just make an allegation about you and the public can never know who that is. So the only thing that's been said about it is just what these anonymous people have said. Again, I understand if y'all have a hard time feeling sympathy or empathy or anything for Diddy. That's understandable. But think about it as if it were you. And there's people who are saying they are a victim of you. Maybe they're telling the truth, maybe they're lying, and they never have to say their names to the public. Now, some people may be saying, well, at least Diddy deserves to know who these people are. Diddy already knows who these people are. Diddy and his team already know who victim 2, 3, and 4 are. Yep. So it really is truly only just for the purpose of keeping these victims' names from the public. It's not like it's trying to protect the victims so Diddy doesn't send someone after them for witness intimidation or something. No, that's not being argued. What's being argued is there's such a strong public interest in this case that the public should be kept out of it. And I don't agree, because if we let stuff like this get passed in a case like Diddy, a case like Ghislaine, a case like Harvey, then next time it's your gonna get. Next time it's somebody that you do care about.
Nah, we need to have harder punishments for somebody. This man on the stand, let something happen to him. Oh my gracious, let something happen to him. He should be protected top secret like a movie. He should have about 10 people covering him, so you can catch somebody in the act and beat they brains out right then and there. I bet you they won't mess with him now. You messing with the feds. You messing with the law, like the equalizer. We need to have some of this movie stuff in our real life. A superhero needs to come out of the sky. This person trying to do right, and because he's doing right, you gonna try to off him? He just trying to bring the truth of what happened. Puffy done drugged these people. I was there. I witnessed Puffy doing wrong. Can you imagine a little kid in elementary school telling, teacher, he did it. Didn't have to beat him up for telling the truth. That's what the world does to people, man. We beat people up for telling the truth.
That's going to be just allowed to be nailed to the wall by anonymous victims. Nobody even knows who they are. It matters who these victims are. Also, some of you may be thinking, well, at least the jury should know. The jury will know. The jury will know the identities of the victim. This is literally all just to keep the public out of it, which I personally think is unacceptable and inappropriate because the whole case has been tried before the public at this point. The whole case, the feds, have brought the public in. They've done press conferences. They've done press statements. They've done press releases. And now all of a sudden, it's going to be media harassment if the public knows who these victims are. I'm sorry, no. I do empathize with them. I do feel like there's probably serious concerns about them testifying from their own, selves. But I mean, what the alternative is, we just going to start letting people make allegations, put people away forever, and the public never, ever, ever permanently ever knows who those people were, to be able to evaluate if the prosecutors are doing a good job, to be able to evaluate if somebody was fairly sentenced or not. No. And they do rely on some of these other cases. They rely on 𝗟𝗓𝗡𝗞𝗦. Legitimate fears of harassment by media. Again, it's very dangerous and inappropriate, in my opinion, to be characterizing something that the government, the feds, have relied on for almost a year since the raid. The raid was over a year ago of Diddy's houses, and then he finally got indicted in September. So like the greater part of a year, the feds have relied on the media. They have relied on making press statements. They have relied on people talking about this case publicly. But now it's harassment. That's dangerous. I disagree and I don't consent. People speaking about a case that is very public and is a very public issue of public concern and interest having to do with ST, mental health, substance use, substance abuse, all of this stuff. That is a First Amendment protected activity to speak about it. That is not harassment. If somebody is harassing, they should be arrested and go to jail and face criminal charges because that's a crime. But talking about a public case, merely mentioning someone's name is not harassment. And I am not going to consent to the likes of 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 trying to set a precedent that is what it is, because that is not. Look, they're citing Ghislaine Maxwell case. They're citing Keith Raniere case, Raniere, whatever. I think that's an NXIVM guy. They cite a case about a well-known musician. That's R. Kelly's case they're citing on. And again, y'all, here we go. This is actually a perfect example. These cases, right? These people, R. Kelly, Keith Raniere, Ghislaine Maxwell, they are infamous publicly. People already have a certain idea about these people. And so it's easy. Just rely on those cases and say, oh, look, in those cases, the judge let victims come through with pseudonym, so that now we're going to have such a huge cluster of cases that whenever it's somebody that's not famous, whenever it's somebody that's maybe innocent, they're just going to let any Tom, Dick, and Harry stranger show up and the public's not going to know who's making the allegations. I don't think that's fair. I'm sorry, I don't think it's fair. And y'all know, I mean, if you follow my coverage, I've been covering this for over a year. I am no 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 complaint, but what I am is an advocate for free speech and an advocate for our constitutional rights. And I do not believe that this is a good precedent to set. Now, if they would have said, let's keep the victims' identities private for another reason, because maybe there's a criminal gang that's going to go beat them up and or something. I mean, that's different. But what they are trying to argue in this motion is that the mere action of the case even being talked about in the media is somehow harassment. And I just don't agree. Look, they say the news coverage has focused on victims in the case, documenting new victims added to the indictment and details of the alleged conduct. Under these circumstances, it is highly likely that if stated publicly in open court, the names of these 3 victims will likely be widely publicized. That publicity imposes real costs on the victims: anxiety, embarrassment, social stigma, personal, professional consequences. They may be harassed by the press and get unwanted attention. So other than the fact that this would really infringe upon the public, the people's right to know how our institutions are being used, by whom, and to make sure that the prosecutors are doing a thorough and good job, to make sure that people are being fairly convicted, make sure that people are being fairly sentenced, etc. So there's like our right? Our rights as the people. That's one bucket. But there's also this other bucket about 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 and all of our rights individually to a fair trial, to due process, to equal protection, right? Not only does 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦 have these rights, but anybody who's charged in the United States of America who's a citizen would have these same rights. The right to a fair trial is very, very, very strongly enshrined in our republic, okay? And so look what the feds are actually asking. And again, if you have a hard time empathizing with Diddy, just imagine it's you, imagine it's your dad, imagine it's, someone you actually give about. And think about if this is actually fair. The government is saying that their request is, quote, narrowly tailored, meaning we're not getting too out of hand here. This is just very little, tiny little ask is what they're trying to say. As part of the request, this is what they're asking. Number one, quote, limit references at trial to these 3 victims. Only refer to them as their pseudonyms, including in the jury addresses and the examination of witnesses. So whenever they're talking to witnesses, whenever they're talking to the jury, even whenever they are talking to the jury, they cannot say the people's names, the victims' names, only they can say victim 2 or victim 3. Number 2, what do they want? To stop Diddy's lawyers from eliciting personal identifying information of these 3 victims, including addresses. Of course, that's fine. I think the addresses is fine. Names of their family members, details of their current employment. Okay, the family members I think is fine. The addresses I think is fine. Details of the current employment I could see could be important. I think the details of the current employment of the victims could be important for Diddy to be able to defend himself. And not only Diddy, but anybody, right? Take Diddy out. If you don't like him, take him out. Put somebody you like in. Is it fair to limit the defense who's trying to keep their client out of jail for life? Is it fair, again, take Diddy out of it, put your favorite person in. Would it be fair for their lawyer, their defense lawyer, to have to be limited to not being able to talk about the current employment of the victims if that is necessarily related? I don't think it's fair. And then they want to seal all the exhibits containing the names of victims 2, 3, and 4. And look, again, they want to keep the sketch artists from even so much as drawing these people. And I'm sorry, y'all. If you don't like this opinion, too bad, so sad. You could unfollow me. You could leave. You could not watch this video. But I am not going to be able to make it through this life without saying what I think is fair and right. And I do not think it's fair or right for any criminal defendant to be limited in this way. I do not think that it is fair or right for them to be limited to not being able to ask about current employment. Like, what did you go do after you worked for Diddy? Where do you work? You can't even ask that. For what? What do you mean? I think if you're making allegations, if you're one of only 4 people, 4 whole entire victims is all they could come up with. I mean, this is one of the ways that I think that the government is really crapping the bed on this. All this whole enterprise and all y'all could come up with was 4 people. And then 3 of them, you don't want to tell us who it is? Is the case really as strong as we thought? That's all I really had for this one. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, 𝗗𝗢𝗡𝗞𝗦.
Again, man, I think a little different from everybody else. I think either way, it shouldn't make a daggone difference. But I would make it clear that if something happened to these witnesses, they got to go into protective custody. Why do the bad people get everything and the innocent people got to go, had me, protective custody. I got to change my name and identity. Forget all that, man. I would prefer to take our taxpayer money and hire 2 or 3 people. All you need is 1 or 2 examples. All you need is 1 or 2 examples, dog. All you need. And next thing you know, the hitmen and all them stuff, they'd be out of business. In my world, they'd be out of business. If you do anything against somebody else that don't have it coming to them, that's where my strongest punishments are started. My very next strong punishment is if you lie. You can lie to a police officer and get into less trouble. But if you tell lies, period, even in school, we would train and teach people. If you lie, you'll be on, for a whole week, you got detention. Lying should be the first thing we teach each other that is 1% wrong. You should be rewarded for telling the truth. Yeah, I did it. Y'all take it light, man. Y'all take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.